Not really, because I'm going to go. That's just a time when we're talking, right?
Yeah, but that's just an out.
Yeah, that's
That's why I know that. And we used to share an office with him, it was only a third of the size it is now.
It's started around there with the fire station, or was it fire station? Yeah, I knew that.
It's a machine. It's a machine for you tonight. Basically, it's throwing more in and pushing it around down there. It's sort of fine when you finish it.
So it's screencasting your computer right now?
I don't know that he's not. Oh, there is. I think that might have been from the.
Yeah.
Time. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of Bella Vista City Council, March 25, 2024. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Council members Snow,
Here.
Hughes. Here. Wozniak.
Here.
Wilms.
Here.
Fowler.
Here.
Hanschel.
Okay. The first order of business is citizen input. Just as a reminder, speakers get 3 minutes per person to address the council on any topic of their choosing. And the first person is Chris Nelson at 1 Harrington Drive.
Good evening. Here to speak again regarding item B on the agenda. Spoke out last month. Don't think it's right for the city to do, but during last month's city council meeting, Councilman Fowler attempted to deflect from comments regarding the behavior of his behavior the community observed during the last runoff election, as well as his unprofessional behavior during the STR ordinance passage, which was ruled unconstitutional. Councilman Fowler stated what initially piqued his interest was a news article written on November 16th, published in the Weekly Vista. An important citizen could determine this to be a lie because at the November 14th, 2022 work session, 2 days prior to the article being released, Councilman Fowler painted a similar narrative as a news article. During the November 14th work session, a barrage of unprofessional behavior and accusations were made by Councilman Fowler towards candidate Murray, Councilman Snow, and private citizens for making legal campaign contributions to their candidate of choice. A FOIA filing also shows Councilman Fowler digging in on candidate Yandel's filing November 10th, 2022. The oath of office clearly states, faithfully discharge the duties of this office. The definition of faithfully is acting in a manner that is true to facts. Councilman Fowler has repeatedly misrepresented the facts both during the STR discussions and now regarding campaign contributions, and he has used public resources to malign political candidates and sitting council people and any citizen who makes a campaign contribution to those he sees as political enemies. I urge the City Council to table the voting ordinance proposal indefinitely due to the unethical behavior demonstrated by Councilman Fowler, which has misled the general public. I also urge those council members who align themselves with unethical public servants to reassess which direction their moral compass is pointing them to. Thank you. This is for the record.
Thank you. Next speaker is Kelly Strain of Marianne Lane.
Good evening. Wow, nothing's changed. I just really wanted to come up here and personally thank Wendy Hughes for addressing an issue on our street. It was deteriorating pretty bad, and you know, cars today aren't very cheap, and it's really easy for a vehicle to get damaged when you have potholes in the street. And you know, I came up here that week before, and the next day I got a call from the city street department, promptly addressed the issue. I mean, like that. I've never had that kind of service anywhere I've been, especially from the city council member. So thank you personally. I wanted to thank you. It means a lot to me. You know, I told my neighbors about it. I told my friends about it, my family about it. You know, Mr. Snow, the same kind of agenda. You know, they're just very personal. They treat you like you matter. I don't get that from the rest of you people. I don't know, you know. I know that you probably started off with a really great agenda and good thoughts and good intentions. Don't know what happened along the way where things got twisted, and now it just seems like, you know, I wasn't going to come up here and stand here for 2 minutes and just say nothing, and just quiet and just stare you down, or, you know, do what you guys did when we came up here when the stumped up was going on, and not look at you, are you done yet, so the next person could come up here and share. That's really, really uncomfortable. It's totally rude and very unprofessional. You guys should really take a look at how they do their business and maybe follow suit. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask questions. You know, if someone's doing a better job than you, I don't know about you, but me personally, I want to be better than the next guy. So I'm trying to be civil and be, you know, I don't want to be an ass. You know, so, I don't know, it means a lot to me that people do care, and there's 2 people here that I know personally do care for people in our community. I wish and I pray that each and the rest of you guys would maybe follow suit, or maybe ask some questions. Hey, what did you do, or how do you talk to people? You know what I mean, I don't know.
Thank you. Now is time in the meeting for a council member reply if anyone wants to address any of the issues. Wendy.
Mr. Strain, thank you for your kind words. I want to give all kudos to Karen Hunt, our street superintendent. She had an email in my inbox about 7 a.m. that next morning. She watched at home, and I had the work order put in. And I'm so just thankful and proud of her leadership of our streets department. It is exemplary, and like, just thank you, Karen, for that service.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'd just like to say one thing. First of all, you know, it's kind of the same people that show up every time and deride me, you know, personally. It happens over and over and over. I took my shots many, day after, meeting after meeting after meeting. But I also have my supporters, and as far as your comments that you made, those are accusations and they're not facts.
They are facts.
So,
You're not going to file,
Please,
Only respond to me and not give me an opportunity to respond to you, sir.
No.
I'm sorry.
Yep,
So they're accusations, not facts.
they are facts.
So,
Go ahead.
they're, in your point of view, I guess they are, but they're not. So, I have my supporters, trust me, they're deep. So, I'm just saying, they're accusations, they're not facts. And I would like to say too, as far as campaign contribution reports are concerned, they're for the public to view. Anybody and everybody. And that includes council members or anybody.
No,
So I just pulled campaign contribution reports and looked at them like everybody else did. And everybody can come to their own conclusion and decisions on what they think they see or what they conclude from them. So they're public.
And this is a public building, so you're not supposed to be electioneering in it.
Come on, folks. Point of order. Okay, next item on the agenda is, Larry, go ahead.
Just one final comment. We're getting some echo here of feedback. I'd like to thank the staff for being responsive. It isn't often that we're able to respond in that timely a manner, usually because of the workload that's there. And so sometimes they can switch the order of work depending on what they're doing. And I'm just pleased that we were able to satisfy the property owner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item is action on the minutes of the February 26, 2024 regular meeting. Is there any comments on that?
Move to approve.
Second.
That's Larry Wilms and Doug Fowler. Roll call.
Council members Wilms,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Next item is the State of the City report. The State of the City report is on the website, and I'm going to, rather than read that report, I'm going to just give a summary. First part of it has to do with the financial condition, and in 2023, operating revenues were $22.9 million, and that was a 12.7% increase from the prior year. Operating expenses were $18.2 million, and that was $772,000 below budget. So obviously the revenues on the operating side were more than the expenses by a significant margin, which is good. Second item had to do with the police. As everyone knows, they moved into their new public safety facility in 2023. And recently the $1.5 million police pension was passed. I'd like to thank the citizens for that. And Villa Vista continues to be one of the safest cities in the state of Arkansas. So we're really pleased with the police performance. In regard to fire and EMS, we got a new ladder truck in 2023. That makes our second ladder truck. And we also got a new remounted Braun ambulance in 2023. Fire and EMS made 4,339 calls in 2023. That was an 8% increase over the prior year. And of course, recently the fire training tower has been substantially completed. So that was a big event for the fire department. On CDS and planning, we had 500 new home permits and 9,200 total permits, all in 2023. So they were very busy. The Mercy Way Bridge was completed. That was $7 million for that bridge, and the city of Bella Vista paid less than $100,000. 80% of it was covered by a federal grant, and 20% by the Walton Family Foundation, because the Razorback Greenway goes across the bridge. So we appreciate their generosity. The Tanyard Creek Bridge was completed, and we have some work going on hard surface trails with plans to extend the Razorback Greenway up to Reardon Road, and also extending the hard surface trail that goes up to Metfield. It's going to go down Commonwealth and up Trafalgar for a ways. So that's all very encouraging. And as far as the planning division, they were very busy that year. And of course, we have the code survey underway now, which will take about another year from now. It's an 18-month project to fix our building code, building and zoning code. So that's a big project, and I think people will be happy to see that accomplished. On the library was quite a bit busier this year. Children's story hour had to be expanded into 2 sections. And of course, they had an expansion of the parking lot, which is very badly needed in the library. So that was good. The streets, I thought the street department had a great year. They fixed a major culvert on Chelsea, and they reopened Dogwood Drive. They had 34 miles of slurry and 11 miles of asphalt. And in the year 2023, they completed 1,418 work orders. You know, the kind of thing Kelly Strain was talking about, is that kind of thing. A lot of different things come up during the year, and they really had a spectacular year as far as accomplishing things. I felt it was important to mention the Arts Council. They had some sculptures here at the Public Safety Facility. On the Bluebird Trail, we have some rental sculptures. We have some murals at the library, and they still do Artist of the Month and the yarn bombing each year. So really pleased with their efforts. That's all volunteer, of course. And as far as mayor and city council, there were 59 ordinances and 66 resolutions passed. And I should say the city clerk and the city attorney, because they're deeply involved in all of that, obviously. So it was a very busy year all in all, and a successful year. So that's the state of the city report. The next item is financial reports. This is on the city website and was sent to city council just today. So this is hot off the presses, so to speak. So as I mentioned, operating revenue was up 12.7% to $22.9 million. Operating expenses were 18.2 million. And so that was 772,000 below budget. I did want to mention the unassigned funds were at 16 million at the end of the year. And at the beginning of the year, they're 17.7 million. There was a decline because of the capital expenditures. And we do have a bunch of capital expenditures coming up this year. So that's why we're still being very conservative with our money. So I will note one thing on the capital expenditure report. Capital expenditures last year in 2023 were 7.6 million, and they were scheduled to be 12.5 million. And that's because some things weren't yet completed. So that's one of the reasons why 2024 looks like a challenging year for capital expenditures. So we're in really good financial shape. I feel good about what's taking place there. And as I said, that entire report can be seen on the website as well. Next thing is the Mayor's Monarch Pledge Proclamation. This is actually from March 14. And I'm I'm not going to read the whole proclamation, but it's also on the website. I'll read some key points. One of the whereas clauses is whereas Bella Vista, Arkansas has taken the National Wildlife Federation's Mayor's Monarch Pledge to demonstrate the city's commitment to creating a habitat and educating citizens about how they can make a difference at home. And now therefore I, John D. Flynn, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of Bella Vista, do hereby proclaim March 14, 2024 as Mayor's Monarch Pledge Day in the city of Bella Vista, Arkansas. And further, I officially recommit today to continue to take meaningful action to protect the monarch and to leave this legacy to the leaders following after me. I encourage all residents, city staff, and visitors to participate in taking steps to increase the planting of milkweed and nectar plants to preserve and strengthen the monarch butterfly population. You know, Bella Vista's been a Monarch City USA for several years. We're a Tree City USA, and I think these kind of environmental things are going to continue to be important, arguably even more important as we grow and have construction and whatnot. It's really important to do things to keep the good environment going. So, anyway, just wanted to call that to your attention. So the next item is I'd like to entertain a motion to suspend the rules of order and procedure to allow all ordinances on the agenda to be read by title only.
So moved. Second.
That was Jerry Snow and Larry Wilms. Roll call vote.
Councilmembers Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. The next item is under old business, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to adopt a new Article 10 outdoor lighting to Chapter 109 zoning to provide for outdoor lighting regulations for new commercial developments and for other purposes. And this is on second reading, and I believe Larry Wilms still has a proposal. I think it's a little bit different, a proposed amendment.
Actually, I found an error in reading through the documents submitted to the work session. If I want the copies. On page 2, halfway down under section 109-290 applicability, item number 2. The last word in that sentence should be more and not less. And that was a correction that I spoke with Ms. Robertson about, and it was originally proposed to be more, as the code was, and I changed it to less, and we discussed it, and I neglected to make that correction in my final presentation here. So, section 109-290, item 2, the last line, end word, says less, it should be more in the amendment.
Is there any discussion about the lighting ordinance or the proposed amendments?
Everyone find it?
I just had a question. I guess, I'm not sure from the work session to where we're at now to what we have on the agenda. I know that there was comments made by staff, or I just don't know what has been proposed and what has been corrected, changed, or whatever. Depending from where we're at, from where we were at work session.
You mean not counting the amendment?
Correct.
Does somebody from staff want to address that?
Well, I can say that what's in the packet that was on first reading is now on second reading. That Mr. Williams has had a couple of different proposed comprehensive proposed changes. He has not moved to amend based on any of those at this point.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you very
So
much.
what's in the packet is what was in the whole time?
I just wanted to make sure or confirm that.
Yeah, okay,
Thank you.
thank you for that, Jason. I know the staff is questioning about some of the things in the amendment, but one part I noticed, which I think unduly complicates things, is it proposes to address pre-existing conditions. And that doesn't strike me as a really good idea in this case.
Could you repeat that?
Well, part of the amendment talks about specifically in 102-290, add the number 5, non-conforming lighting installation, meaning something's already there right now. Such situations will be made to conform with the requirements within 1 year of the effective date.
Presuming, Mr. Mayor, presuming that it's non-conforming and it creates a problem, and so an action has to be taken. It's not any non-conforming installation, it's one that creates a problem that's contrary to the ordinance in terms of glare, illumination, that kind of thing. It creates a health or a safety hazard. Then the zoning administrator can take action to direct the violator to fix it, and there's a 60-day time period. This can only be done after 1 year of the effective date of the ordinance. So it's not an immediate thing when the ordinance takes effect, it's 1 year after the effective date. So there's time in there for things to change. As an example, in a year, the lighting fixture may have to be upgraded or replaced anyway, and so it would be upgraded or replaced consistent with the ordinance, and it wouldn't apply. But if there is a lighting situation that creates a health or a safety hazard, it allows us to take corrective action. That may sound inconsistent with what we do in non-conforming structures and uses. But non-conforming uses, if you pass an ordinance that makes it non-conforming, it continues until certain things happen to trigger the correction of that non-conforming use. And the same would happen here, is that someone would have to provide a complaint or have to be called to the attention of the zoning administrator, and then the zoning administrator would have to validate that issue being a health or safety hazard, and then issue an order to correct. So it's not an overnight thing.
Well, my understanding is the new lighting and everything else that the people working in the code are going to do is all going to be as a particular date. People planning want all that to be consistent. Plus, I'm not aware of any lighting problems in Bella Vista now. All the examples I got were from other places.
Well, that's kind of what as it was proposed in its original form, I thought it read very clean, and it just seems like there's a lot of additions that have really muddied it up.
So does that fall under the definition of pre-existing non-conforming? Is, where if it's already existing prior to the enactment of ordinance to manage lighting in the future, can we go back and direct people to change lighting based upon a complaint or potentially, and I don't even know who in the city is going to be driving around at night and identifying problem lights of it.
The point of this ordinance was to provide for lighting regulations for new commercial developments. For new commercial developments.
Right.
You can adopt, as part of your health, safety, and welfare authority, certain lighting regulations on how people use current lighting, be it timing or there is authority for the city to do that. If you want to pass something that's going to require reconstruction, I think that's more problematic. And I think that gets beyond the scope of the title of the proposal that's before you. So I don't know if I answered your question, but usually when we're talking about pre-existing non-conforming, you're talking about a zoning usage, a zoning regulation. This is development regulation related to how new commercial properties are developed and the lighting that they use or are not going to be allowed to use. That's really the full intent of what you've got.
Wendy Hughes.
Does staff have a viewpoint on that section, Taylor?
Sorry, I mean, staff's concern is primarily around the 1 year of effective date that was added in here. I know I discussed that with Councilman Wells at our meeting, but that's essentially, obviously staff did not propose the non-conformity clause that came with that one. It was just going to be any replacement or new light fixtures was the original intent. But as written, staff's main concern is just the 1 year effective date, because hopefully within a year we have a whole new zoning ordinance and development ordinance, including a lighting ordinance as well, because Freese and Nichols obviously has already identified that as a large missing standard in our zoning ordinance. So that's where my primary concern is.
Mayor, it sounds like we're doing the same thing with the lighting that we did with the driveways. We're making people comply after the fact. Again.
I need to correct something I said. This isn't an adoption or change of the zoning code. I want to clarify that, it is. But, so you do have pre-existing non-conforming use standards that, so to the extent, normally this sort of thing would be in a development regulation, but because our code currently is a little fouled up, we've got it in zoning, which I think is part of what Taylor has been discussing. So, again, nothing in this was intended to require someone, even, we're only dealing with new commercial developments, but in any commercial development, to say rip down the parking lot lights and put up a different kind now, because we passed an ordinance. We're not doing that. And I'm not sure we could do that.
No, it sounds like that's what Larry's proposing.
I'll let y'all know.
No, that's not the intent. If we have,
I know that's the intent, but it sounds like the same thing we did to driveways. If you had it ahead of time and you don't comply with the new law, then we go. The original one leaves it all alone. It sounds like you're going to give them a year to comply. Where after the fact, after the fact.
Only if there's a reason to do so, being health or safety hazard.
Well, what's the safety hazard? It's a driveway. The principle's the same.
Well,
you're making people comply after the fact.
We're not talking about driveways, so we're talking about lighting.
But the principle of what you're doing is the same. You're making people comply after the fact. And granted, the way it's written, that's not a problem, because it's only new. But you're digging back.
I'm confused about the driveway thing. Where's the driveway we're talking about?
We're talking about lighting.
Yeah, we're talking about lighting. And
so where's the driveway come in with the lighting?
Well, you brought it up.
Yeah, I did, but we made people comply after the fact. And now you're going to do the same thing with your amendment.
I don't know where I came up with something requiring a driveway to comply after the fact. I don't know where driveways came from. What are you talking about?
The principle of the thing.
What principle?
We passed an ordinance, and if you didn't comply, you had to upgrade your driveway, yes?
It's regarding the SB2 correct?
And now, you're coming up with...
What you're talking about? What driveway ordinance are we talking about? Am I missing something here?
Yeah.
When did we pass the driveway ordinance? There's one on the agenda
When we made the new one and made everybody comply with what we had after the fact.
I don't know.
I know you don't know, Larry, it's just that sometimes we have a little trouble getting through with you. But that's, from my point of view, if you're gonna add something and they can do it after the fact, that's similar to what we did with the other. The way the ordinance is currently written, that's not a problem. If your thing disappears, then I don't have a problem.
I want to try to provide some clarity. We adopted a driveway standard here a couple of years ago, I think is when it was, that did not have retroactive applicability. That only dealt with new residential constructions, okay? So that, I don't know where the retroactive application of the driveway grading,
You made people compliant after the fact.
are you talking about driveway grading, or are you talking about?
The driveway on the S.
Oh, that was years ago. And that
Yeah, but
said you can't park
the
a
principle,
car.
the same, the guy had a driveway for 20 years, now all of a sudden we're coming after him.
Well, that wasn't in the nature of a zoning regulation. That was more in the nature of a parking or a nuisance regulation. In other words, we told people
Like I
you
said,
can't.
I'm satisfied with what was originally written, I'm not real satisfied with what Larry wants to do.
Well, we don't have anything originally
But I
written.
can vote one way or the other, so I'm good.
So, if I might, so, Councilmember Williams, Larry, I mean, I've said it before, I mean, your propensity for attention to detail it's off the charts. I mean, it really is. And what's happened is, and I think Craig is right, Craig is basically the original author, if you will, support of this ordinance, right, bringing it forward to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission went through it, they approved it, adopted it to pass on forward to us. And then it seems like often we get caught up in these details. So I'm just going to, one of the very first things is, for me, when I read it, 109-289, point number 2, it says, protect drivers, pedestrians, senior citizens, and visually impaired from the glare of non-vehicular light sources. To me, that's self-explanatory. If it obstructs somebody's view, or if it causes glare, it causes some type of danger, that's self-evident. But then you add, from improperly selected, placed, aimed, applied, maintained, or shielded outdoor lighting features. Well, to me, that's implied in the original statement that was written. We don't need to go into that type of detail about how the placements of the light, where they're aimed, and all sorts of stuff. I understand that, right? It says it's implied in the original statement. So, kind of to Craig's point, again, I appreciate your input, but I think with all the additional detail that's written in here, it just kind of muddies it up and makes it really hard for people to understand. And this is for future development, basically, is why it was written, and to help with the lighting in those particular cases. And I think the way it was written, for me, anyway, when I read it, was pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It didn't box us into any corners. So I'm good with the way it was originally written, personally. Not being derogatory to what you wrote, but it just gets too complicated.
It's been a proposal at the first reading and a refined proposal at this reading. And if I understand Attorney Kelly, that it hasn't been presented for adoption as an amendment.
You haven't moved to amend.
Right. And so it's not a formal amendment at this point. And you can take care of that, because I'll make a motion now to amend the lighting ordinance as presented by the document here, with the exception that in 109-290, item 2, last word, needs to go from less to more.
Okay, that motion needs a second.
That's the only change you want to make? Go from less to more?
No.
Yes, because
You're changing now.
I feel correct it when I.
It's changed. He wants to make all the changes.
If you'd like to strike the item number 2 in the first section that you just referenced, we can do that.
Okay, so that's a motion. Is there a second? Okay, so if there's no second, then the motion fails. And I guess you can decide if you want to go to third and final and vote on this, or want to wait till next month.
I think it's been discussed a lot, right? And I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and go to third and final.
Okay.
That was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Wozniak.
I have a question.
Mr. Mayor, I do. Could I just for clarification, what is being motioned at the moment is what was originally proposed, period?
The original proposal that was on first reading last month, that you were co-sponsor of, is unchanged, and the current motion on the floor is to suspend the rules of order and procedure to go to third and final reading of that proposal.
Okay. I I just want a clarification.
I'm confused and I'd like clarification, please. There is the original city draft ordinance. There are the amendments that was proposed by me to the lighting ordinance. And there's a third proposal that's attached to our documents. And I guess my question is, the third proposal, I don't know where that came from, but there's a third item in here for the lighting ordinances. And so my question is, what are we dealing with? And is this a submission by someone? It says a outdoor lighting proposal.
I can answer that.
So I don't know where it came from.
So in the original packet, the planning commission had before it this proposal, which was created by the staff, and that is put in the packet because that's what guides me to write the official ordinance, which is the very first document on this item in the packet. So when you look at the packet, there's a mayor's proclamation, and the very first proposed ordinance is the one that you're voting on. So it has the operative enacting language and all of that, with the drawings and the place for the mayor to sign and all of that. So the other, there's your proposed amendment, or one of the original proposed amendments, either that was defeated, it was not seconded, or you previously discussed but did not move. And then the staff notes that I used to draft the legislative document that you have as the first thing.
So the third item is what you used to draft the ordinance from.
That's what I used for me to learn what they wanted to do.
Right.
And it's largely copied from that.
Okay, it looked like it read the same.
It should be.
And I thought maybe it was another proposal, and so it was not, because we hadn't seen that one before. This one.
Well, I think it's been in the packet.
Only in the work sessions. Only in the work sessions.
Okay, so we have a motion and second to go to third and final.
Question?
Yes, sir.
If this ordinance pertains to future lighting, nothing that we have pending at the moment, then why are we going to third and final? I mean, what's the rush? Why not wait for any additional public comment until the next meeting?
Well, I asked people whether they wanted to go to third and final, and they made a motion and said they did. That's why we're going to third and final. And then we can vote on it, whether most people think we should go to third and final or not.
I don't know how many calls you've had about it, but I haven't had any about the lighting ordinance, so.
Taylor, was this published back to the public? Was there any public comment feedback on this ordinance at all for the planning commission?
I don't believe we received any public comment. Forwarded and published in the packet that you have tonight.
Okay, so why don't we have a roll call vote on going to third and final? Suspend the rules and go to third and final.
Councilmember Snow,
No.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes?
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-1. I'll go ahead and read it. Amending the code of ordinances of the city of Bella Vista to adopt a new Article 10 outdoor lighting to Chapter 109 zoning to provide for outdoor lighting regulations for new commercial developments and for other purposes. Is there a motion?
Well, all I want to say is, to Taylor's point as well, we all know that we're working with a company right now, right, that's going to rewrite our zoning ordinances. So this is going to come up in there. We're going to see their version as it comes forward too. So this is somewhat temporary, kind of a placeholder until we get that.
It's a Band-Aid if there's a problem.
So,
Move to approve. Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Mr. Wozniak. Roll call vote.
Councilmembers Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Okay, the next item under old business is ordinance requiring candidates for election to any municipal office of the city of Bella Vista, in addition to any other requirement of state law, to file campaign contribution and expenditure reports with the Bella Vista City Clerk in sufficient time for voters to make use of such information prior to the beginning of early voting and for other purposes. And this is on the second reading. Any discussion?
I mean, we have discussed this, at length pretty much, I think. In my point of view, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. We have early voting that begins on a certain day, but campaign contribution expense reports are not required to be submitted until 10 days prior to the general election. And in the guise of full disclosure, I think it only makes sense that those campaign contribution reports are submitted prior to early voting. We have the most stringent FOIA law in place for our public officials for the state of Arkansas versus like any state in the United States, and I think we're recognized for that, good or bad. And I just think that this falls in line with that. Why this hasn't already been taken up by the Arkansas State Legislature is something I can only guess. I don't know. I know that there has been a question submitted to the State Attorney General. As far as I know, we haven't received any feedback, but there really isn't anything as we know this as we can or whether we can't. Now, there is some direction and some degree on what cities are allowed to do. And I would just like to say there are like 3 points I think that came out. But one of the points is people running for elected office in Bella Vista, a public office, can actually voluntarily agree with other people running to set expenditure limits if they want to. Is that correct, Jason? I mean, we don't have to do it as a city council.
State law does give the city by statute certain rights to provide certain regulations regarding campaign contribution amounts. And as I've said in prior meetings, I would provide caution to you in trying to go down that particular road just because of constitutional questions related to campaign finance reform at the federal level and other campaign finance decisions which have come down since that particular statute was adopted. But it is in the statute.
And I would just like to say finally, Mason, I'm not going to go over and over and over this again for the rationale why. But there is literally not one single person that I have brought this up to that just looks at it and goes, it just makes sense. Why would you not want to do that? So if the state of Arkansas, if our state legislatures want to take it up and do something on their own and put it in their state statute for elections for cities in the state of Arkansas, I think that's great. But I don't know or see why we would wait around to do it, knowing it's just something that makes sense. So that's kind of where I am with it. And if anybody has any feedback, that's fine.
Wendy?
I just don't believe that we are the proper body to be regulating this. From the state, absolutely. I'm so glad we sent the resolution to the state, voicing our opinions that there should be something that happens. But I don't think as a city, we are the right body to basically kind of get into the election business. That's not our spot.
Jerry Snow?
I think it just makes sense to relabel this ordinance as the dirty politics ordinance. Right? This is how dirty and slanderous campaigns begin. It has no purpose other than to satisfy the personal needs of one, making the issue of campaign contributions serves no purpose other than providing information to create rumors and false suspicions about a candidate and their contributions. The most disturbing and disappointing part of this ordinance is that my fellow council members' eagerness to gamble with the taxpayers' money. The city attorney has said this is not a good idea. The municipal league has said it's not a good idea. Yet we go ahead and vote for it anyway, taking the chance that there is going to be litigation filed against it, which again is nothing more than gambling with the taxpayers' money. So I will move tonight that this ordinance be tabled indefinitely.
motion and a second to table the ordinance indefinitely.
Mr. Mayor, I guess I'm confused. Alderman Snow, Councilman Snow, you've made some statements that...
We can't hear you.
Turn on the mic. You've made some statements that seem to be confusing. I don't know if our city attorney has said we shouldn't pass this. I think he said we need to use caution until we get the opinion back from the Attorney General's office to say whether we have a green light or not to be able to do it.
Well, I'm always happy to answer the question, but Mayor, the question on the floor is a motion to table indefinitely, and so really the debate needs to be limited just to whether or not you want to table indefinitely or not. If you don't want to table it, you still want to talk about it, I'd be happy to address it. I would say that it is, I have not said don't pass it.
Right.
I have just, since I'm going ahead talking, that there is uncertainty. There could potentially be a challenge. What you say about the league, they have suggested they would prefer cities stay out of this. And there's an argument that the city can do it, but it is not clear 100%. I think all the lawyers that have looked at it to this point have pretty much said that. And so it's been, one of our representatives has indicated she submitted a question to the AG, which is her prerogative, and basically asking that question, and at some point, I guess they'll render another opinion on it. So, but anyway, at this point, Mayor, the question's on the motion table indefinitely.
We haven't received an answer from the AG's office. Okay.
I've not seen one.
So I guess this follows up, with whether to table or not. A couple of comments were made that I don't understand at all, which is dirty politics and something, I don't know, misuse of taxpayer funds or something like that. I don't even see how that comes into play, or I don't know where that's, has any place in this conversation at all. But, one of the comments made during the last meeting was there's some type of election interference. And I don't know, what would you call wanting to block the source of campaign contributions until after voting begins? That feels much more wrong than it does to go ahead and put the campaign contribution expenditure form out there for people to see. It's interesting, there was a FOIA request that was made this last week. And I really appreciate that, because what it says, it started out, it says, as a citizen of the state of Arkansas, I have lawful right to this information under the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. I have a lawful right. So why would we not want to provide campaign contribution reports prior to an election beginning in the early voting period? I don't know what the number is, but it's as high as 50% that takes place before the general election. And by that time, it's too late for people to get feedback on where campaign contributions are coming from, and that could definitely sway a voter's opinion of how they may vote. So, I said, I don't know how this is any interference in any way, shape, or form.
Well, if I may answer, Mr. Mayor, the state of Arkansas has determined in their opinion that the elections and election procedures and election policies comes under their jurisdiction, the state as well as the county. County and state both have a policy for filing the financial contribution report, which should be sufficient. If anyone wants to see whose contributions have been made, or who have made contributions, that should not be an issue. They didn't make any issue in the past election. You were able to identify those people that you felt were questionable, that you didn't agree with, that made contributions to certain campaigns. It didn't stop you. They didn't have any problem. You had a problem with that. So I don't see what the problem is now. I don't see the purpose. There's no only purpose for this is, as I say, it's just nothing but more than the beginning, the opportunity for dirty politics. That's all it is.
Let's vote.
Well, yeah, let's get, so this is on the motion to table indefinitely, and so yes means you want to table it indefinitely, no means you do not. That's all we're voting on. A roll call vote.
Council members Wilms,
No.
Fowler,
No.
Hanschel,
No.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak.
Yes. Mayor, you may choose to vote in favor if you so desire.
No, I'm not gonna
You're not going to vote?
take a position, no.
So the motion to table definitely fails, Mayor, 3-3.
Okay,
You're still, so Mayor, you're still on third reading, so any further debate on third reading can proceed at this time too.
No, we're on second.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
be third reading next month, I'm sorry.
Obviously, I'm not willing to let it roll until next month. I mean, you know, we've still got time, if this passes, we still have 60 days after that, so we're not under any timeline at this particular point, and maybe we'll get an AG opinion by then.
yeah, I was gonna say that we might get an AG opinion, it would certainly be nice.
Has anyone spoken with Representative Mindy? That's the last name.
McLendon, I spoke to her last month. I haven't spoken to her since I spoke to her last month. She indicated to me, I think I reported this last time, that she was sending the request either that day or the next day. I've not seen that, but I take her at her word, and it is not surprising at all. It's going to take a period of time to get any kind of a response.
I may learn something before the end of the week. So.
Well, I wouldn't think 90-day delay between a question and answer on that would be unheard of. Just don't know. It's going to be a while.
Okay, so, we can, think about it till next month, I guess, when it goes to third. Okay, new business, ordinance A, amending section 107, 380, land alteration requirements of chapter 107 subdivisions and other developments in the code of ordinances in the city of Bella Vista to modify driveway grade requirements and for other purposes. And I believe this had an amendment in the packet submitted by Councilman Fowler.
Get to it.
We also have one on this.
Okay.
That's right.
Pardon me?
Go ahead.
No, so during the work session, in the conversation, I believe that Chris and Doug both, particularly I think Chris, stated a desire. It's like if this thing moves forward, I believe I asked the question, are you completely comfortable with this? Or do you think or do you think it is where it needs to be? Let's make sure we get there before we pass an ordinance and then have regrets that we left something out, or we needed to make a tweak to it. And both of them were supportive or had a desire of adding to 107-380.4, calculating the driveway grade for the intended purpose of this subsection. The driveway grade requirements above shall be enforced and measured along the center line of the driveway for the first 20 feet from the edge of the street, and then the addition is, and for the last 20 feet from the garage or the carport. At no point along the center line shall the grade exceed the limitations provided herein. So it was just that part of adding the last 20 feet from the garage or to the carport. That's what they wanted to add. So that is a proposed amendment. So if anybody wants to have a conversation about that.
There's more in the written amendment than just that. There's also to further amend the...
Further amend the proposed ordinance by adding section 2, which shall read as follows. Section 2, not to be codified, the provisions of this ordinance shall be applicable to the extent its provisions are less restrictive to building permits issued on or before the effective date of this ordinance. So anything that's already in play, it's not retroactive. You don't have to go back and, they don't have to go back and fix it.
So have you moved the adoption of that amendment?
I just want to read what it is, so everybody can understand what was added.
Yeah.
And it's the last 20 feet of the driveway from the garage and carport.
And it's retroactive if it helps you.
Pardon me?
It's retroactive, it helps you. You,
Yes.
as the builder or the homeowner, depending on how you look at it. Wendy?
So I did miss the work session, but I got to listen to it, and this seems online. The original intent, I think, of the grade, the original ordinance was to, because of the constant circle, that 40% that they said it was, when they measured it out, caused all this unusable driveways, unusable garages, and this goes back, I think, to the original intent. I know the planning commission seemed to kind of change their direction during the meeting, during their work session, so I think this is great.
I did want to clarify that Chris Brackett, Doug Tapp, and Taylor Robertson all wanted it the way you had proposed this amendment.
Yes.
They all made that very clear.
Okay.
Jim?
I don't have a problem with the first 20 feet being flat. But why are we taking 20 feet off the other side too? We're 20 feet on both ends. We started, that's right. We don't have any trouble with the 20 feet off the front end, because one of the things Ellis was big on is let's get the cars out of the streets so the emergency vehicles can get around them. So why do we have to mess with 20 feet on the other side?
Because I think the original intent of the ordinance was to make it where you have usable garages and driveways all the way down. And because a lot of driveways are 40 feet, net ish or less, this would kind of cover, and that way you don't have someone in 20 feet and then spiking down to a 40-degree angle, like a constant circle.
Okay, the guy buys his lot for $10,000. He finds himself a builder, he picks out a plan, he sticks the house in the lot, and he knows before he opens up the first little bit of dirt that my driveway is going to be steep. So why are we telling him he can't do it? It's his driveway. He knew up front that it's going to be a doozy of a driveway. You look all over town, there's a dozen of them within 3 blocks of my house. I can live with the 20 feet for emergency vehicles, but that's where it should end. He knew it when he built the house. He knew it when he got his plans. Why are we messing with the rest of his driveway? Regardless of how steep it is, and if he grinds both ends in the middle of the car when he goes in, who cares? He knew when he built the house.
Well, the exact situation that actually occurred in real life was that a guy bought a house without physically being there, and then found out that you couldn't get a car in the garage.
Well, whose fault was that? It's not our fault.
I think Planning Commissioner Dool, I think might be her name, she made a point also saying that yes, you might buy a house and that might be okay for the original owner, but you aren't going to live in that house forever. You're going to move, you're going to die. Somebody's going to have the house after you. And having the possibility of unoccupied homes that are empty and rotting and decaying, I think was one of her concerns when she mentioned this during the work session.
You can't, at least in my mind, you can't give me a real logical answer for why should we mess with somebody's driveway on the first 20 feet. If he knows it's steep before he builds it, he knows it's steep if he rebuys it, he knows that, why are we messing with it? We mess with it because we have unscrupulous builders in Bella Vista that caused the issue with the house that Mr. Snow brought to our attention over on the east side. It's not far from where you are.
Yeah, I can show you a dozen of them from my house.
But in this particular one, it's close to the road. And so if you're lucky, it's 20 feet from the edge of the pavement to the face of the wall in the garage. And so you go off the edge of the pavement and you actually go like this, and now the top of your car tops out when you try to get into the garage, so you can't get into the garage with the vehicle.
So what? He knew it ahead of time.
Well, but here, the builder did it this way because it saved him money. He sold the house, and now the cars are parked outside, I think, at least the times I've driven by it. And it was the one that caused this issue to come before us in the first place.
Well, I can show you a house that if the guy misses his driveway, ends up on the second floor.
Well,
There's not one flat spot in his driveway, and it curves and everything. But he knew ahead of time when he built the house, he had a problem. So why are we messing with about in the first 20 feet? Answer me that. Why are we messing with somebody regardless after the first 20 feet?
We
we need to be able to get off of the roadway safely.
Yeah, 20 feet, I'm giving you that.
And then we need to be able to get into the structure and the last 20 feet. So you have to have within a reasonable grade for that last 20 feet in order to get the vehicle into the garage.
Why does that have to go in the garage?
Okay, Wendy Hughes, would like to
So many
speak.
cardboard.
When there are two amendments, how do we go about figuring what to do?
Well, these are together in one amendment, it's one amendment.
Oh, no, there's Mr.
There's two
Wilms
amendments.
as well.
Oh, okay.
There's two
Well,
amendments.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't,
We'll
was it
vote on
Andrew?
amendment number
Okay.
1, and then.
All right. So no one has moved amendment number 1 yet. So you'll just have to, someone will move the first one, there'll be a debate and vote, then somebody will move the second one and a debate and a vote.
Motion, okay, good.
No, I mean, you know, like I said, I don't want to keep going around in circles about this. Building ordinances are put in play to protect the consumer.
Protect the public.
Protect the public. And so, it feels like you're assuming, it feels like that you're talking about a person who picks out a lot, picks out a builder, and then builds a custom built home, and they're fully aware. Well, that's not the case with most of the houses that are built in Bella Vista. They're built by contractors, and they're built really quickly, and they're built to any grade of anything that they can get by with. Not all builders are like that. There are a lot of really great builders here in Bella Vista, but there are some, and I know for a fact they will get by with every little thing that they can, only for the consumer, only for a homeowner, or somebody that might buy a house sight unseen that comes here, and you say, well, that's on them. You know what, I don't buy that, because you can't think of, you can't cover everything. I understand why we're talking about the last 20 feet, to get the car into the garage. And again, it's protect the consumer today and downstream and into the future. And we can't keep letting goofy things like this happen and take place. I mean, there are just certain things to me that make sense, and this is like one of them. And by the way, the house that Mr. Snow found out and fingered that can't believe it got by with, that's not the only one. There are some others that are built past as well. And all the cars are parked outside, like on the street, you know, because they can't get their car to the garage. And it might be the first 20 feet, it might be the last 20 feet.
And it's something I'm referring to, they all keep their cars off the street because they build the extra pad.
So anyway, this is an addition that was requested by members of CES. And these are the people that are into this every day and see these situations every day, and they think it needs to be fixed. Unless we're going to fix it, let's take care of it now.
And the fixing is the first 20 feet and the last 20 feet.
Yes.
That's the proposed fixing.
Yep. Man, I mean, make that thing a ski slope, you know, in between, I guess, but those 20 feet, let's at least take care of that, I guess. I don't know. So, this is the first amendments in play, and I guess we would have to take up Larry's next.
Would you want to make a motion to vote on this?
To clarify, I have two parts.
Hang on, can I stop you for a second? I'm going to speak up on behalf of the clerk.
Thank you.
Before any of you speak, you have to be recognized by the mayor. And when you have the floor, you continue to have the floor until you yield the floor and the mayor recognizes somebody else. So that's how the order of recognition proceeds, and then particularly when you're speaking over each other, I don't know how she's going to make minutes of that. So I'm just going to remind everyone of the rule because I don't have a gavel, but I just want to say that because I know that you're getting quite anxious about trying to decipher what we're talking about. So I just wanted to add that.
The mayor must recognize a council member before he or she speaks.
Okay, Mr. Wilms?
My amendments will fit with the one that's being proposed initially. It's just an addition on the last word on the last sentence of item 4.
So,
Did not include it.
So somebody want to make a
just to
motion?
clarify,
I would like to make a motion to approve the amendments.
this amendment to 4, section 4.
Right.
You haven't been recognized.
What am I saying, Larry?
No, go ahead, Greg.
Make a motion to approve the amendments, or the amendment, Councilman Fowler's amendment as proposed.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
That was Mr. Hansel and Wendy Hughes. Roll call vote on whether amendment number 1 should be adopted, the Fowler amendment.
This is clarified, Fowler amendment we're
Yes.
voting on.
Yes.
The motion was Hanschel, the second was Hughes. Councilmember Snow,
I'm going to abstain at this point.
okay. Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
No.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1 and with 1 abstain. So that's the First Amendment. Mr. Williams, would you like to, hang on, Mr. Snow?
I've just got a question in the amendments as well as the second amendment, which I think Mr. Williams' amendment may deal with that. But I went with Doug to look at some of these driveways. And it looks like that in Bella Vista, the only way that an ordinance or any kind of regulation regarding driveways is going to require a lot of administrative discretion. I mean, like we looked at some driveways, they're in grade on one corner, but the opposite corner of the driveway next to the street may be 4 to 5 degrees off from the required grade. I mean, it depends on the way the street lays, the way the street pitches, the topography. And I talked to one gentleman today who said that he's preparing to build a new house, but the driveway is going to be about 200 feet long. And going to go, I think, maybe downhill maybe to a lake lot. I don't know how you're going to, how's that particular driveway going to follow the grade requirements?
Well, this particular ordinance with the amendment that was just passed covers the first 20 feet and the last 20 feet, and it makes it very clear that you measure it from the midpoint of the driveway, from the middle.
So like in the driveway that's 200 feet long, the first 20 feet is no way that it's going to be in grade that first 20 feet. I mean, if it's going downhill. Plus, I think what we're doing with Bella Vista now, a lot of the good lots, a lot of the flat lots are gone. And now we're dealing with lots that are going to be, houses that are going to be built on a 45-degree incline, and maybe even more.
I agree with you that it's a very challenging situation, and that's why we consulted with all the people in CDS that were most familiar with it and trying to figure out the best way to approach it. I agree with you, it's a challenging problem.
But it would appear that, as I said, that there needs to be some type of administrative discretion in dealing, allowing the director of community development and possibly the engineer to sign off on something that's saying that they agree that the circumstances are such. I know Doug and I discussed the term of a functioning driveway. The driveway may not be exactly grade, but it's functioning, and that you can get to the house, and cars are off the street, but yet it does not create any unnecessary obstacle or unnecessary means of getting into the driveway or getting into the house. The driveway is functional, but it's not exactly within grade.
Okay, Wendy Hughes.
I think that is addressed in the actual ordinance. Taylor, is it section 2, administrative modification? And it has like the ability for you guys to speak on that, please?
Yes, so
So this does have an administrative authority built into it. Our current ordinance also has an administrative authority, but that was part of a large amount of discussion that we had with this. It's not enough. Currently, we have a 12% hard limit and then a 2% administrative variance. That's what's codified right now that we're practicing. So Chris Brackett, our engineering CDS staff, can administratively vary a driveway grade up to 14%, so long as there is a hardship there, basically saying that the land cannot be developed or used without this administrative variance. That was the main point of discussion, is that administrative variance was not large enough. So not only did we increase the driveway grade from 12% to 14%, we also increased the amount of authority that Chris Brackett would have, our city engineer. So if it's downhill, this, as you guys are reading tonight, if there is a hardship, it can go to 17% downhill. If it's uphill or an elevated driveway, then Chris can consider administratively in-house up to 20%. So there is an administrative authority vested within this current ordinance.
I guess I'm not following, when you take a 200-foot driveway that's going down to a lake house, I'm understanding exactly, I mean, it's obviously going to exceed that 20% variance, I would.
So we would only look at the first 20 and the last 20 if this was approved. So the other 160 feet in between, we wouldn't enforce or even look at. We just make sure that the car's not scraping, or is it 17%. If an administrative variance is needed, preferably 14% off the street, so they would need to probably grade whether that's cut or fill, which is allowed and supported by our ordinance if it's supporting a driveway. If it's not at natural grade at 14% currently, and the same with the house, they may need to fill to reach that FFE or the finished floor elevation of the house to make sure it's not more than 14%.
So if I understand it correctly, then, like in this instance I just described, then if you get down to the bottom or down to the lower level or where the house is going to be built, if you got 20 foot there that is flat or that is accessible to the garage, then that 160 feet from there to the top is not an issue.
We will not even look at the 160 feet if you guys adopt this ordinance tonight. We would only look at the first 20 and the last 20, then the under 160, we're not touching.
Okay, understand.
So the point is, you can get a waiver before the planning commission if you have certain circumstances, but we're trying to write an ordinance that would cover 96, 95% or whatever the situation, so people don't have, right now people are going to the planning commission right and left trying to get waivers. We're trying to make a rule that will work for the builders so they don't have to do that.
So, if I'm wrong with the ordinance that is currently in play, it's 20 to maximum 14% for the entire driveway, right?
Correct.
Even if it's 200 feet.
Right.
So this is a huge allowance to a builder or a homeowner for everything in between. Because before it applied to the whole thing.
Correct, that's the goal that eliminates some burdens.
Mr. Wells?
I think the thing we need to recognize in considering this, it may seem severe, the numbers that are being proposed. I spent some time with Mr. Tapp in the field last week, and we looked at driveways that fell within these parameters, and some of them were long, more than 40 feet long, and some were short, probably not much longer than a vehicle length to get from the edge of the road into the building. And the parameters in those examples that we looked at certainly were workable and would be addressed and made possible by this ordinance passage. The concern that I have for my amendment is that when you're looking at the situation where it's a downhill, street is here, house is here, is that if you just take it straight down to the garage, it'll be a slope going downward all the way. And if you don't intercept the water that comes down, and in my driveway,
I'm below the street, not very steep, but it's probably 8 feet. But the water from the street comes down because there's no ditches along either side of the road. And so the roadway water, the roadway slopes this way in front of my house, so the water from the hill comes down, the other side of the street comes down, goes across the street, comes down my driveway. I have a depression before it gets to my garage, so that it prevents the water from continuing to flow into my garage or into my house. So that is one of the issues that I think we need to protect the homeowner from, and the unscrupulous builder from not recognizing that water coming down a downslope driveway needs to be intercepted and diverted away from the garage floor. The way they build the houses now, it's on a slab, so the garage floor and the house slab, the house grade inside are all the same. So once it gets into the garage, depending how severe the rainfall is, how high the hill is, and how much water comes down that driveway, you could flood the garage, literally. And so my proposal is to put in a drainage swale or something to divert the water in front of the garage at least 1.5 feet away from the building face. So that's one change. The other one is to add at the end of the item 4 that it needs to be authorized by the engineer in the approval documents. In other words, it's not something that's a word of mouth thing. There has to be some tracking of the documentation. That's really all that implies. So that being said, we have the best lots have already been built on in Bella Vista. We have the poorest lots remaining, and they're remaining because they are more costly to develop. You have to put in more courses of brick or block on the house to bring the grade up. If it's below the street, you may have to do some grading on the building pad area if it's above the street to make it work, in order to make it usable. And so all we're saying is that we're looking out for the property owner from the unscrupulous builder that doesn't follow common sense.
Mayor, question of Taylor. Is there anything that's written in the ordinance now that controls drainage coming toward a house that's kind of already in play?
We currently already, this is a very basic requirement that we already put in most of our GEC permits, the grading and erosion control permit. If it's a downhill house, most of the time, 9.9 times out of 10, we are requiring a drainage swale or some kind of drainage mitigation to keep runoff from going into the garage. Whether it's a French drain, swale, whatever it be, that is already our #1 requirement typically that we're already enforcing. And that is checked for typically at the C of O by our inspectors as well. Our ordinance and I believe other requirements as well outside of our ordinance already require that you can't direct runoff onto adjacent neighbors as well. So that's another common drainage swale requirement we already have in place for the GEC.
So this is written somewhere else in our code, essentially?
It's not written, I don't believe.
Not in our current ordinance. It's just a basic requirement of development staff review to make sure that houses aren't getting runoff put into the home. That's one of the #1 things, one of our #1 job duties that we have to review these kind of proposals.
So would it be helpful to write this into our ordinance and codify it?
It wouldn't matter if it was, sorry, I got some questions.
So would it be helpful if we would codify this, write this into our ordinance?
Staff does have a concern where it's currently proposed to be placed. I know we're reviewing it right now, and Engineer Brackett and I kind of discussed it as well because they also had a meeting. There is some concern placing it right here if it is going to go here. An additional requirement to driveways on top of the grade in the land alteration section, we have some concerns with that.
If I might make a suggestion, if people feel they need to pass this to help situation, you could go to third and final and then consider Larry's, take some time to have CDS review it and consider Larry's amendment next month.
No, I think it's a good idea, and I think, Larry, I think your points are well taken. Actually, Doug and I were driving around, I think a lot of people have made trips around with him by now, and there's a house actually on my street where he was looking at the drainage of the driveway coming down and had concerns of it going into the garage. So I think it's a legitimate concern, but if you're concerned about where to put it in the code, maybe we could have that conversation this month and you can propose it next month and we can take it up.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about, we do amend things and we have some broad authority to amend, but you do have to keep it within the subject matter of the title of the proposal that as it's written. And so this proposal is to amend the driveway grade requirements. So if we want to start talking about driveway drainage requirements, and drainage is dealt with extensively in other parts of the code, I think we may be talking about more than one topic. And so our ordinances can only deal with one topic at a time. Now, yes, the topic is driveways, and I think we probably could draft a title that would do that, but we're really talking about a whole different proposal rather than just changing what you got in front of you.
Thank you for that, Doug.
No.
Larry?
I'll withdraw my proposed amendments.
In that case, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and read third and final.
Second.
That was Mr. Fowler and second by Mr. Wilms. This is a vote on the motion to suspend the rules and go to third and final.
Councilmember Wozniak,
No.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow, Missing Hughes,
Yes.
and Wozniak. Oh, I'm sorry, you did already. Okay.
Don't do it again, it's okay.
Motion to go to third and final carried 4-1. Oh yeah, I need to read it for a third time. Amending section 107-380 land alteration requirements of chapter 107 subdivisions and other developments of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to modify driveway grade requirements and for other purposes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Wilms and Mr. Fowler. So we'll need a roll call vote on the motion to approve.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Nope.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow.
I'm going to abstain again.
Motion carried 4-1 with 1 abstain. Okay. Next one is a resolution awarding bid and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Superior Automotive Group with a total amount of $53,742 for the purchase of one Chevrolet Tahoe special service vehicle for use by the fire department.
Move to approve.
Second.
This is Mr. Wilms and Mr. Fowler. Any discussion or roll call vote?
Council members Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution awarding bid and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Tatum Motor Company of Anderson, Missouri, in the total amount of $47,950 for the purchase of one Mahindra 6065 cab tractor with loader for use by the fire department.
Move to approve. Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Mr. Wozniak. Any discussion or? Okay, roll call vote.
Council members Fowler,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution awarding bid and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with FTG Limited in the amount of $980 for mowing and landscaping services for city facilities.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It was Mr. Wozniak and Mr. Wilms.
May I just real quick, Mayor? I just want to say, just for the benefit of the few public members that might be hanging on and watching this, a lot of these things we're voting on right now, these items, they were actually approved in the city budget at the end of the year for 2024. So essentially, they've already been approved, but we have to go ahead and, approve them by resolution that's required. Anything above $35,000.
Yeah, plus
So-
we went over them in the work session, as you know.
Yeah, and we were over them during the work session, yep.
Okay, roll call vote.
Council members Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution awarding bid and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Process Heating Company, Inc. of Seattle, Washington, in the amount of $61,371 for the purchase of one slip-in asphalt hot box for use by the street department.
Motion to approve. Second.
It was Mr. Wozniak and Mr. Wilms.
I have a comment.
Larry Wilms.
This is a budgeted item in the capital contract, or capital projects list for the street department, but it will help them become more efficient in their processing and repairs of streets, so it's a benefit to everyone out there that is complaining about potholes.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Council members Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Superior Automotive Group of Siloam Springs pursuant to a state procurement contract for the purchase of 4 2024 Dodge Durango all-wheel drive pursuit vehicles in an amount not to exceed $160,000 for the police department.
Move to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Snow and Mr. Wozniak. Roll call vote.
Council members Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Yes.
Wozniak, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So now,
6-0.
6-0. Now you can declare the vote.
Sorry, motion carried 6-0. I thought it was appropriate that the motion and second were by 2 former police officers. Resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Stronghold Data LLC pursuant to an Omnia Partners Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, an amount not to exceed $89,000 for the purchase of IT infrastructure for the police department with associated services on site option.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Wozniak and Mr. Snow. Roll call vote.
Council members Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Turnkey Mobile Inc. through a NASPO cooperative purchasing agreement in the total amount of $84,772.34 for the purchase of 23 mobile computers, Toughbooks.
Motion to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Wozniak and Mr. Snow. Roll call vote.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with Raymond James and Associates Inc. to serve as a municipal financial advisor to the city.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Was that Mr. Wozniak and Mr. Snow? Okay.
Middle of the road here.
Yeah.
Well, it's clear.
Roll call vote.
Council members Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution approving the mayor's appointment of Barbara K. Pelton to the Bella Vista Arts Council to fill a non-expired term ending April 22, 2024, resulting from the resignation of J.D. Portillo, and further approves mayor's appointment of her to fill a full term thereafter ending April 22, 2027. This week, we included a resume. It wasn't in last week, and I wondered if Ms. Pelton was here. If you want to stand up. I asked her to come, and she just sat there a lot, so I want to introduce you to her. So,
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Ms. Bertel for her service in the past and welcome the new young lady for the Arts Council. Thank you.
yes, we appreciate it very much. We just had a Artist of the Month a few days ago, and I think Dama Heitzer would have been here, but she was struggling with some health issues, so.
We said during the work session too, but just make sure here, it's phenomenal what the Arts Council does. I'm blown away. I mean, they are so active and so great for the community, really. It's terrific, so thank you guys. Okay.
And apparently they were able to sit through long meetings. Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Larry said so moved, I got second then.
Okay, Mr. Williams and Mr. Fowler. Roll call vote.
Council members Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution approving the mayor's appointments of Tim Hall and James Schlanke to the Bella Vista Board of Construction Appeals, and Tim is up for a new term. Mr. Schlanke is new. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion. Motion approved.
Okay, Mr. Snow and Mr. Welch? Okay. Roll call vote.
Council members Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution amending the 2024 city budget to reappropriate unspent donation revenue to various departments from 2023. This is donations from the citizens, and I believe it added up to, you have a chart,
It's
$189,000.
$187,000, yeah. Yeah. No, it really is impressive, you know, the residents of Bella Vista, just how community conscious they are and how willing to donate, not just their money, but their time. Anyone that gets the weekly Vista as well, and I haven't made a comment in this regard, I've meant to, but this community is the most unbelievable in just people that are willing to be active in the community and do positive things. If you are living in Bella Vista and you can't find something to do or something to be a part of that's positive, you're not looking very hard. So, and this is just another one of those things that the financial support for that comes in. So $187,000 is really impressive.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Wozniak and Mr. Fowler. Roll call vote.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yep.
and Snow.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution expressing the opinion of the city council on nonpartisan body that citizens should be highly vigilant regarding the influence of partisan and special interest group campaign contributions during Bella Vista nonpartisan municipal elections. Is there any discussion?
Well, all I'm going to say about this, because I am going to move the table until next month, but this is just my personal belief, but I don't believe any decisions made on a city level should be based on ideology, partisanship, or special interest, period. We are a nonpartisan body, and our decisions should be based on homework, legwork, and hard work. So, having having said that, because we tabled the campaign contribution ordinance to third and final, we didn't move to do it, but we just decided to go to third and final. I'm going to move to table this until the April meeting.
We need to vote on that?
Yes, that was Mr. Fowler and second by Mr. Hanschel. Roll call vote.
This is on the motion to table to the April regular meeting.
Right.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes?
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow.
Motion carried 6-0. Announcements, next city council work session is 5:30 p.m. Monday, April 15th at Bella Vista Police Training. Next city council regular meeting is 6 p.m. Monday, April 22 at Bella Vista District Court. Planning Commission work session 4:30 p.m. Thursday, March 28 at Bella Vista District Court. Planning Commission regular meeting 4:30 p.m. Monday, April 8 at Bella Vista District Court. Board of Construction Appeals 3 p.m. Tuesday, April 9, if necessary, Fire Station Number 4 Conference Room, 1639 Forest Hills Boulevard. And I want to remind you this Saturday at 10 a.m. at Allen's is the 660 litter pickup. Thank you, meeting adjourned.
Is that all? Just go down there?
Yeah, yeah, it's